All right. So I'll admit, I have kind of a reputation on Instagram at this point that I'm not a big fan of PayPal or Venmo for business transactions. I'm really not. It's one of the few things I have a very strong opinion on. I'm going to share with you today why that's the case. In case you are using PayPal or Venmo, number one, I'm not judging you. First and foremost, we are not judging here. We are not here to talk about what you're doing wrong or reprimand you for doing something wrong. I am here to tell you the right way to do things and why you should probably avoid a certain approach so that you don't end up in more trouble down the line, okay? I am here to try to save you, the future self, from a lot of hassle. So I want to just inform you on why I don't like using these platforms. And I have a funny story around this, actually. I posted a few times on Instagram that I was not a fan of PayPal and Venmo for business. And explaining the reasons why. So if you've seen those posts, you kind of know how I feel. And those were so polarizing and got a lot of engagement. And as a result, now I am a coach, a resident financial coach, or a resident accountant in multiple business coaching programs online. And when I go into those programs, I do, group calls with the participants. And I sat down with them one day and I asked the question, so, okay, what are you using for payment processing? And anytime someone said PayPal, they apologized to me. They said, oh, I'm using PayPal, but I'm sorry. I know, Shannon, I'm sorry. You're not going to like this, but you're going to be so mad at me. You're going to hate me. You're going to be so mad at me. And I'm like, I don't really care what you use. Like, it's your business. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to judge you. And you don't have to apologize to me. You really don't. It does not hurt me whatsoever that you're using those programs. But you know what it does do? It makes me aware that I don't like them. And I'm going to tell you the reasons why in this podcast episode, right? So you're going to understand exactly why, people are apologizing to me for using PayPal. Now, let's go through the top 3 reasons, okay? These alone individually. You're going to hear reason number 1 and you're going to go, that's it. I can turn off the podcast. Like, that's enough of a reason, but I want you to hear all 3. Number 1 is the legal terms that you signed as an account holder of PayPal or Venmo specifically say that you will not use PayPal or Venmo for business if you're using your personal account, right? So if you're using your friends and family option, if you're using Venmo, the same thing that you use to split your sushi bill, you're using to ask customers for money. No, that's a no-go. If you're trying to skirt the fees of the business versions of these accounts by trying to manipulate it and trying to use the personal version, it's a no-go. So, and that's just in the terms, that's just in the legal terms. So no question, point blank, it's in ink, you cannot use those for business. Now, do people use this? Absolutely. Can you? Technically, you are able to go and ask all your customers to use friends and family and skirt the fees. But I'll tell you, it's not a great look because a lot of people know what you're doing. And if you're cheap enough to skirt a 3% fee, like, how are you skimping on my services, right? Like, are you not, you're not willing to pay 3%, you're trying to hoard all the fees. I mean, I get it. A lot of us are kind of in the same boat as business owners, but it's kind of telling for me as an accountant if that's something that you're doing, because you really should be going on the straight and narrow and doing it by the books and using the business account, because if they catch you, and they have really good AI, by the way, to catch transactions that look like business transactions, and that's how people's money gets frozen. So my best word of advice is to just use the business version of those accounts and do it the right way and pay the fees. Pay the fees. We talked about that in a prior episode, exactly why people are skirting the fees and what my thoughts are on it. But first off, legal disclaimers, right? You should not be using the personal versions for business. Number 2, seller protection. This is the least known. This is the least understood. So let me explain what seller protection means. It means that if you sell something in your business to a customer and they decide that they are not happy or they want to get a refund, they can do what's called a chargeback, and they can file a chargeback with PayPal, or they can also file a chargeback with their credit card company. We'll call that a dispute. You can file a dispute, right? So if, let's say, an unhappy customer files a chargeback with PayPal and you're a service provider, okay, you're a service provider, PayPal will not protect you. Now, you can still win a chargeback. You can still win a chargeback, because what happens is a chargeback happens, and then PayPal will evaluate if the transaction should be processed, or if the person's just kind of being, being a meanie and, and wants their money back, but doesn't really deserve to get their money back, right? You have an opportunity to argue and to fight the claim. And if you win as the business owner and the person needs to pay, you can still win. Now, here's the problem though. If they file a credit card dispute, even if you win, they can go file a credit card dispute with American Express or Visa, MasterCard, whatever it is, Chase, whoever's hosting the credit card, they can file a dispute. And if you lose that, money's gone. Money's just gone. PayPal does not help you as much as they do with product-based businesses. So if you have a product-based business and you're selling through PayPal, if you're using the business version of PayPal, you do have higher degree of protection. But if you're doing services, so if you're a consultant, an accountant, a coach, a lawyer, anyone who's offering service-based business, which is most of you, I assume, that are listening to this, then you are not protected. So you are off on your own without the life raft if you have an unhappy customer. Now, I hope that never happens to you. I hope this is very rare and that this doesn't affect you on a daily basis. But when it does, I just hope it doesn't burn you that hard or doesn't sting. So yes, it's possible to win a chargeback with PayPal 100%, but you really don't want to risk it if you were to get a credit card dispute, because most people know this. Most people know that even if they lose with PayPal, they can go file it with their credit card company if that's how they paid for it. And then it really increases the likelihood, honestly, that they're going to go with their customer. So just be mindful of the fact that seller protection is a risk, and you should be going to a service provider that offers seller protection. Who does? I know Stripe does, and some of the other third-party providers do. Now, it's just PayPal is definitely built for product-based businesses, always has been. And they started offering seller protection. I will say this, they started offering seller protection on a limited basis. You really have to read the terms though, because they don't offer it to the same degree as product-based businesses. There's still a gaping hole in coverage for service-based businesses. And you should definitely be mindful of that. And to be honest, it comes down to, if there's loopholes in there that don't get me seller protection, but I can get it with, let's say, a Stripe or a Square, then just go with them. There's no reason to be loyal to PayPal if they're kind of wishy-washy about protecting you, okay? So my opinion is that that's too much of a risk for me to take on. And by the way, PayPal owns Venmo. So when I say PayPal, I'm kind of including both in that language, because it is the same company, the same policies. All right, so number 3, this is more of my personal opinion. So if number 1 and number 2 didn't get you, number 3, honestly, I'll just be blunt with you. As a customer, it's not a good look. It's really not a good look if you're sending out okay, just PayPal me this amount and we'll get going, or Venmo me, which is, I think, worse, Venmo me. Now, here's why I say this. You might be thinking, what do you mean? Like, I have a coaching business and my fee is $2,000, and I say, okay, here's the PayPal link, PayPal me $2,000. It works functionally, but here's the thing. If you want to be taken seriously as an online service provider, my best advice to you is to get a platform that does invoicing. So you want to send a formal invoice that says $2,000 for one-on-one coaching for 6 weeks, right? And from your letterhead to their name, right? And have all that evidence right then and there, and all that documentation. That is going to serve you so well and serve your customer, because a formal invoice does so much more than just the superficial, nice, pretty look of the documentation. It is evidence that there's a business transaction here, and not just like money being exchanged between 2 individuals. That there's an intention behind a service. And it really helps when you look at your contractors, when you look at your services, when you look at what you're spending, you see these invoices and what you've paid. You get to see what services that they've purchased, what you've been able to offer and charge. It's just a better look. It really is. Like, invoicing is so important, and it's great documentation in the event of an IRS audit. So If you are just sending out a PayPal me link and an amount, it's not perfect. It's not the best way to do it. Also, as a customer, okay, listen, as a customer, if you come to me and you say my fee is $2,000, $3,000, and you can Venmo me, what you're actually telling me is, I don't respect you enough to let you make a decision on how you want to pay for this, so I need you to pay cash out of the bank account right now. And I get turned off by that as a customer, because let's say it is like a $3,000 to $5,000 ticket, right? Venmo me. Well, that's aggressive. Like, who says I have that cash ready to just drop in one payment? Who says that I want to do that? You're not even offering me like a payment plan or anything else like that. And also, by the way, if you do a payment plan, it's much harder to collect on like Venmo me, Venmo me, Venmo me. It's obnoxious to have to keep asking for them to send you money. You never want to have your customer in a position where they have to initiate the transaction and do the work. Like, they shouldn't be doing all of the work for you and being the one proactive. You should be making it as easy as possible for them to pay you in a way that works for them. Because at the end of the day, it's customer service. So if you're saying, here's my fee and PayPal me this, I am super annoyed, because now I have to go into my PayPal account. I have to go log in, remember my dang password. I got to go and find you. I got to put the amount, and then I got to write a message about what it's for. And then I got to send it to you. Like, it's 2021. Send me an invoice that says exactly what I'm paying for, where I click a button and say pay. I click a button and say credit card, and I get to enter my credit card. Because I love paying with credit cards and I love paying with points. And I don't want to be deprived of being able to pay that way, especially if it's a multi-$1,000 purchase. So why I feel so strongly against this like PayPal Venmo approach is, you've got to get out of your head that these are the easy options. They're only easy for you as the business owner. They're easy for you, but making it easy for you doesn't work. By making it more difficult for your customer. Lower the barrier for your customer to buy from you. Lower the barrier for them to agree to say yes by making it easier for them to pay on their terms in a way that looks super professional and just instills trust and security in their minds about working with you, because it is part of your first impression. So remember this, because it's about more than a payment system, guys. It's about respecting your business and treating it the way it should be. I mean, how would you feel if you walked into like, I don't know, the most high-end store, right? You go into like Louis Vuitton and you say, I want to buy a bag. And and then the associate personally goes, hey, Venmo me the money. That looks shady, doesn't it? Like, why don't they have a cash register and a receipt and like documentation showing you bought this, right? It's the same thing. Like, do you want to sell something like that, or do you want to make it look like you're working in a flea market? You know, that's how I feel about it. I'm sure I'm gonna get comments, but seriously, if you're using PayPal and Venmo, consider the idea of switching to something a little bit more professional, using something with an invoicing platform. I personally use QuickBooks, and I use my CRM through Infusionsoft to invoice my customers. We do allow for recurring payments as well through credit card, which makes it seamless and easy for not only us to collect payment, but for our customers to pay as well and to update their information. It's just a no-brainer for us. And it really is that simple and easy, and you don't have to hassle your customers to pay you. You want to make it so that the lowest barrier possible is up, so that you can start working with them, start applying their transformation and getting them results as fast as possible without them even thinking about how to pay you. All right. So again, if these reasons aren't enough, let me know. But I would encourage you, after listening to this podcast, if you are using PayPal and Venmo in your business to collect payments, that you look for another alternative. And by the way, if you're using PayPal and Venmo as a customer, if someone else is asking you to pay them via PayPal or Venmo, this isn't putting you in any sort of jeopardy, okay? You would be following whatever way they are asking to collect payment. But what I would do is politely inform them if they don't know. If they're a fellow business owner, if there's someone you know, politely inform them about certain rules around this stuff if they are doing it, or just say, hey, if you're comfortable, obviously, let them know that some of these things are present. This might be risky, and they may value you for it. But just make yourself aware of how this works, so that when you're in control, when you're the business owner, you're setting up the right payment processors in the right way and making it work for you. If you as a customer are experiencing this where you're asked to PayPal or Venmo someone, you can do that. Just make sure your PayPal or Venmo is connected properly to your bank account that you want to be paying out of, okay? So make sure your PayPal and Venmo are always connected to the proper bank account you're paying out of. So if it's a business purchase, that you're connecting it to your business bank account. Coming out of the bank account, it's less risky because you're paying as a customer, right? But I'm talking about, this whole episode is talking about you as the business owner, you as the seller. You really have to be careful about using these platforms. All right. So if you have any questions on using these platforms or have any thoughts on what we've shared today, send me a text message. I'd love to hear from you. My number is 860-609-6374. Yes, it's me. You're texting me. Tell me what you thought of this episode. Tell me any questions you had, or if you're inspired to take action. I would love to hear from you.